All right, it's August 10th, 2023. Welcome to Axiom News Live, where every Thursday we engage strengths to catalyze change. Here we start with what's strong rather than what's wrong. We are here to lift up the stories of people whose work in the world we become connected to and care about. I'm your host, Peter Pula. Our guests today are Dan Joyner. Dan is a practitioner of the fine arts of restorative leadership and the small group. He's doing wonderful work with learners in Cincinnati elementary schools. And if you're familiar with the small group, you'll likely recognize some of what Dan is up to. We are also joined by Honey Kershane, who is with Axiom Energy in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Axiom Energy is what I would call an indigenous powerhouse that is using business tools and indigenizes them to create new solutions to old problems. In this case, community-owned energy. Thank you, Dan and Honey, for joining us today. So I was thinking about some of the themes that are developing, or the feeling that's developing with some of our guests in the show so far. I think this is our 6th or 7th episode, and there's a certain groundedness that seems to be showing up that I suspect we'll also feel today. And part of the reason that groundedness is showing up is because the folks we're speaking with are people who are doing work on the ground that seems very natural and whole and really demonstrate the power of community and connection and being in relationship with one another and the environment around us. There's not much in the way of politics or exciting world movements or the chattering classes. It seems to be very much about real people doing real work. And those are some of the reasons I'm pretty excited to have both of you here, because I'm anticipating we'll have a very similar sort of feeling and conversation here today. So with that, maybe I would just start with asking each of you. We'll start with you, Dan, and then Honey, we'll go to you. What was it that compelled you to say yes to our invitation to participate in this kind of conversation? Dan.
Well, yeah, it was real easy for me. Now we're just now getting back into school, and there was a long lag for me in connection with teachers and administrators and kids during the summer. And so now that we're kind of gearing back up, and I've got some ideas that I'm carrying over from experience of last year. And so I just love the opportunity to kind of talk about that experience and then to roll into what's coming up. I'm just excited to talk about it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dan. And you, Honey, what was it that compelled you to say yes to our conversation today?
Well, I really just like kind of talking about the work that we do here, and I'm really excited about our upcoming plans coming up. And I just having conversations with people. We're such a small company, and there's not a lot of people that know about us and the work that we do. So any chance that I have to spread the kind of story that we have I really like to take advantage of it.
Right on. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I shared with each of you, but I'll share with our listeners again that our format is that we'll spend about 20 minutes. We'll all stay in the stream, but we'll spend 20 minutes first really exploring and diving into the work that Dan is doing. And Honey will stay with us. I think Honey's got to step out for a short meet and greet in about 15 minutes. So we'll just be aware that that's likely to occur. But in the meantime, if you, Honey, have anything you'd like to reflect on or share while we're exploring Dan's work, do feel free to jump in, and then we'll switch our focus about halfway through, and spend some time really presencing what Honey's up to with Axiom Energy. Sound all right?
Great.
Okay. All right, we'll do that.
Sounds great.
So Dan, we've been connected a little bit through our relationship with Peter Block and the small group pedagogy and way of being in the world and building community, something we're both familiar with. And I understand that you've been in schools with that methodology and are bringing kids in closer connecting with each other and even themselves. Can you say a little bit about what that work has been over the last few years before we jump into what's unfolding now?
Yeah, the work for me started actually with the leadership team of the high school. So it's a small first ring suburban district, about 1,500 students. It's an elementary school and a secondary campus with a middle school and a high school. And 6 years ago, the high school was trying to introduce a new way of kind of organizing the student body. So rather than just by age and grades, they visited some schools that were using house system. And so that they thought the house system would be a great way to build connectedness among the students and create a legacy of, relationships and community within the district. So that's where it started, with that idea. And they kind of heard about me and my work with participatory processes and collaborative leadership and restorative leadership. And so that's when they asked me if I had any ideas about how they could introduce this to their entire faculty and to parents who might be interested in community members. And so we got together and we worked up, we did an open space. And we designed it. We hosted it. It was just a half day. But that was the moment they saw and realized that it was possible to have productive meetings and gatherings and have people kind of self-organize around what matters.
I was going to say, can you say something about what open space is for folks that might not be aware of that phrase?
Yeah. Open space technology is a way of running meetings in a way that the people who come kind of self-organize around topics that they're passionate about. So there's a theme, but people show up because they're interested. And in the case of the teachers, they were mandated, right? So that entirely replaced mandate. But once they're in that setting, the leadership team learned that they could create conditions for people to have choice within the gathering. And so that's what open space provides. It gives people an opportunity to self-organize around what matters to them.
And so in this case, you had students involved?
There were just a few students and a few parents, but it was mostly teachers.
All right. And then what unfolded from there? What changed for people and what changed for you?
Well, the biggest change was for the school principal, who doubted that people would get up, post topics, get interested in the topic, because that had been her experience, the resistance and so forth. So once we opened the space, there's a moment, even for me, that I worry, okay, I finished setting it up. I get out of the way. We're sitting in a large circle. And there's this moment that, oh my God, is this going to be the time that nobody, is it so toxic here? But it always works. And before I could finish and get out of the way, a couple of teachers, veteran teachers, got up and ran to the middle of the floor to pick up a marker and a piece of paper and to write down a topic that they were passionate about. Right. So right there, that was an indicator for me. And then after the principal witnessed the amount of engagement that occurred and interest, we produced notes from the breakout conversations. And I think we had almost 20 breakout conversations. And after that, she was sold. And it's kind of funny. I've heard several of these administrators who are now, so the district has kind of grown since I started. The principal is now an assistant superintendent, right? And another guy who's an assistant principal at the time I started, he too is an assistant superintendent. And there's a new superintendent. But they've all come through kind of this way of thinking about leadership. And so they were open to thinking differently about how they approach leadership. I'm telling you, Peter, it was almost instantly that they found the freedom from the pain associated with trying to control people. So the dominant system, the dominant Western way of leadership is about, command and control and holding people accountable. That's how we all learned, and that's how they've been operating. But to find that they could free themselves of the pain, the cynicism, just the nasty remarks that came at them, when they were simply trying to lead your hearts. They really cared, but learning that you can't manage people, and to let go of that, and that people will respond if given the chance, if invited. Once they learned that worked, now they say to me, they introduce me to people and they say, "This is Dan Joyner. He changed my life." It's a little embarrassing, but I get it. I understand. Yeah.
Well, the structure of the way people gather is what's changing people's lives, right? So,
Right.
and you're catalyzing that. Yeah. Yeah. And so I understand that some of these approaches or the principles have brought to life approaches in classroom and in an educational environment. So organizing the student body is one thing. How are you seeing these more holistic approaches, and like, would you call them freedom-centered approaches playing out in classrooms and in educational setting?
Yes. Over time, the district leadership team began to pull in more and more kind of supportive processes like restorative practices. And they've also brought in project-based learning. And what we've learned about restorative leadership, restorative practices, and project-based learning, that they are all a shift in narrative, a shift in thinking, right? And they're all consistent. It's the same kind of language, freedom, choice. And so they brought in more of that. And so what that's enabled me to do over time as the administrators, and not all of them, but a good portion of them, have adopted this work and they operate this way. They use small groups. They use design principles in prepping for meetings. They execute meetings that are participatory in nature, and then they reflect afterwards. So it's this design, execute, reflect. So it's that cycle of learning that they have bought into. But these additional processes have enabled me, as these leaders have kind of abandoned me. I feel abandoned sometimes. I only meet with them every other week for an hour and 15 minutes. That's a leadership team.
Right.
And they're off and they're doing their thing. And we just kind of support each other. They support me as much as I support them. So we're a community of practice.
Right.
So we've taken those same principles with these other processes, and I've been able to kind of drill down now and create partnerships through like project-based learning, for example. So the district created 4 consultants who will help develop project-based learning throughout the district, where those consultants are partners of mine. We're all consultants. So it gives me a chance to work with them on flawless consulting, right? How to consult, building relationships, partnering with people. Their expertise is in project-based learning. How do you build project-based learning around a subject, and how do you bring real world examples into the classroom? And you combine that with my knowledge and even their knowledge of how to do various small group processes to begin to connect people around the subject matter, to begin to connect and build relationships between members of a classroom, for example. These small group processes and the types of questions that we use enable those things to take hold. So that's where I'm finding myself now. Last year, I did a project with a 4th grade homeroom class. Homeroom class is only 45 minutes. It's 10 a.m. every day. Me and 2 of the project-based learning consultants worked a partnership with that classroom teacher, that homeroom teacher, Mr. Edie, who is a math teacher and a language arts teacher beyond his homeroom. And he agreed that he would do a writing project with his 4th graders, and that we would join him and make it a project-based learning experience for the kids and the teacher. And so that's where I really last year saw how these 4th graders can grasp circle practice, for example, sitting in circle, understanding the dynamics of being in a circle and the roles, using a talking piece, being able to practice listening, we had one role in there was a guardian. In the guardian role, we had a singing bowl. The kids loved the singing bowl. So the guardian was to kind of keep order in the group. If we got out of whack, the guardian would ring the bowl and everybody was supposed to be quiet, and the guardian would tell us, why they rang it, what we need to do, and they'd ring it again, and we'd get back to business. That worked okay. Some of the kids were a little aggressive with it, but we're learning along the way. So, but I tell you, over the course of half a year, and we didn't start this until after the Christmas break. Over the course of a half a year, I was convinced that these fourth graders can self-organize around vague topics that are important to them. So we've done things with them like appreciative inquiry. So that's one of the social technologies that we use. And if you know appreciative inquiry, it's all based on, it coming out of the positive core. So we have them share stories with them, share a story about a time when you were in a sticky situation and you stepped up and took charge and made a difference, something like that.
Right.
Fourth graders can do it. They can have those conversations. And then with the conversation, we emphasize listening, the kind of the small group process we've learned from a small group. Listening, no advice giving, replace advice giving with curiosity. Ask 2 questions. Why is that important to you? Tell me more, but the key is to listen after that. And so we would go through those processes with various subject matter, with various goals in mind. Sometimes our goals was to build connectedness. Sometimes our goal was to expose them to what it's like to do teamwork and work on your projects together, your writing project. And so all along, through all these little exercises in and out of small groups for various reasons, the kids did lots and lots and lots of writing. And we also made a connection with 2 senior living centers in the community. One of them we connected with. And so the idea was that we were going to do a greeting card exchange. So the seniors and the activities director was excited because he thought it would be stimulating for the seniors to do this writing back and forth with the kids as well as the kids. And we gave them prompts for the writing, to kind of give them an opportunity to, express certain prompts that you would in a greeting card, And so that was all the writing in and out of small groups, participating in open space, telling stories about yourselves, thinking ahead to the future. The last open space I did with them, there were 22 kids in the class. Our prompt was a question, something like, thinking about the upcoming year. So this was near the end of their 4th grade year. So next year, 5th grade, and then following year into that, they'll be going on to 6th grade. So that whole year, we asked them, what is it that excites you? What is it that worries you? So those were the prompts. And of those 22 kids, they posted 15 topics. So, and it's passion, something you really care about. So those 15 topics came out of passion and their willingness to take responsibility, which is part of open space, and host a conversation with whoever comes to their breakout group. So all self-managed. People pick and choose which groups.
And this is 4th graders.
These are 4th graders. Yeah. And they were even given permission to be like an open space. You can be a bumblebee or butterfly. These are 2 creatures in nature that kind of go from place to place and cross-pollinate. Or even a butterfly, you can go sit on a rock and just look beautiful. So how many kids, during a 45-minute class can go sit and look out the window and it's okay?
So Dan, is there any going back from that? Like once students, I imagine that changes the role for teachers too. Like, so how does the teacher's role change in a class of 22 4th graders who are living into open space?
Yeah. Well, hopefully the idea is that the teacher will see themselves as a facilitator or a convener.
Right.
So, how you set the space up is important. That's an important part of being a convener, coming up with the questions you're asking.
Right.
Is, that design is the role of a convener. So that's how we want the teachers to begin to think about these things. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. But in the high school with the house system, one of the things that excited them was the idea of having what they call mentor groups. And these mentor groups were the same as what happens in the elementary school with their homerooms. And their groups are called morning meetings, right? And this is just, 45 minutes, sitting in a circle, getting connected, doing all these things that kind of gets them prepped for the day and for life. But it's hard. The high school is struggling to get. One of the consultants said, yeah, maybe 50% of them, maybe 50% of the teachers are practicing this. The rest of them find it difficult. They don't find it useful. The kids can kind of manipulate and spend that time just sitting back, slumped down on their phones, hood on, if the teacher lets them. But the leadership approach is, again, you can't control humans. You can't mandate that they do circle practice. Otherwise, it's just going to build more resentment, and discord. So the leadership team accepts that, when they're ready, they'll do it.
Right.
If not, maybe some kids. So that's why I'm excited with these 3rd and 4th graders coming up next year. We're going to do a project with them. That if we can get them to begin to learn these practices and embrace them as the way they want to be, starting in 3rd and 4th grade, by the time they get to 8th, 9th grade with some teachers that might be struggling still in the high school, the kids can help them. And that's okay. Anybody can run the group, and so we practice the art of hosting as well, so that the art of hosting. And there's a whole community out there, the art of hosting. What undergirds the art of hosting is the Fourfold Practice, Fourfold framework. And this framework kind of starts with four domains. It's got 4 domains. And the lowest one is showing up and being present, or hosting yourself, art of hosting, right? Hosting yourself. So what do you have to do to settle in your seat? The singing bowl really helped with that, because we all listened for silence, and the kids would settle down, and it would just be a spiritual moment. It really was, when these kids could settle down and they were present, and you knew it was something different.
Which probably lays the groundwork for being able to integrate and learn better as well, if you can settle and be present in the room that way. Yeah.
That's right. And have choice. So,
right.
Yeah. So I want to tell you about this project that's coming up, but I'll follow your questions here, but I'll get to
let's hear what the other 4 practices are in the Fourfold
sure.
Practice. Let's hear
Good
that
point.
quickly, and then we'll unfold what's next.
Okay. So the first is host yourself. The next one is be hosted. So all that is participate.
Right.
Be a participant, so the idea of listening without judgment, suspending your voice of judgment, replace, advice giving with curiosity. Practice asking, tell me more, and then listening. Why is that important to you? And then listen. And knowing that you don't have to give an answer. There's no answer. So once you experience somebody sharing their story, and then there's this moments of awkward silence, and then the kids can embrace that and sit with that silence, we're going somewhere. That's what I've seen kind of growing. And then the third one is host others. So that's, what we adults did. We were the facilitators because we knew how to do it. I did a lot of that. Last year, I got maybe 2 students to host, and I had to kind of give them a question, and they asked the question. And so we gave them a little bit of experience. The guardian,
even an open space, when you name a conversation you like to host, that's an act of hosting too, isn't it? Like,
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, sort of a warm up to a larger kind of group. Yeah,
that's right. So that is an experience of hosting, right? And they know that is out of something they care about.
Yes,
and they commit to take responsibility for talking about it. So from the very beginning, they're committed to it, and they know they don't have to. I mean, they can just be a butterfly and go sit.
And it doesn't feel like they take an external responsibility. It's something that's inherently rising up within them, that they wish to do this. It's their wish that creates the responsibility.
Right. That is the beauty of the kids that I'm seeing. And I tell you, what gave me a clue.
What's the fourth one, Jan? What's the fourth one?
Yeah, the fourth one is be a community of practice.
Okay, great.
So
Great.
becoming a community that learns. So
Right.
me and the top leadership team, we're a community of practice.
Right.
You know, and so that's what I would love to develop among, you know, the students and the teachers and so forth. So
that's what I was going to ask you is what would you like to be experiencing next in this work?
Well, so this year, going into this year, I had an idea about learning and teaching 3rd and 4th grade math in open space. So the idea would be to
even to me that sounds crazy.
Absolutely nuts, right? For me, because of my relationship with math, it's absolutely crazy.
Exactly.
But it didn't work for me the other way, right? So
right.
This might be better.
Fair enough. Calculus in open space. Sign me up.
Yeah. Maybe I can learn it better from one of my peers than from the teacher that's, you know, can't seem to get through to me. But that's what it offers. So our goal, we're going to make it a project-based learning project. So this open space is going to be 2.5 days. The 3rd and 4th grade are located in one wing of a brand new building that was built for collaboration. So we can open that wing up and get the 175 students, the 9 or 10 classroom teachers, any parents who are interested in participating in learning and teaching math, any community member who wants to participate in this 3rd and 4th grade learning and teaching math, who might have some ideas about teaching math, who might be a master cabinet maker, who can come in and give examples of his work or her work in math and how math applies to it, right? So it's open to everybody. So we'll see. It'll be an invitation. We'll see who comes, and we're going to try and do it for 2 whole days. So it'll be a whole day of breakout groups, which would be in their normal schedule. So it could really work. And then in the evening, we would do what's called evening news. And that's where you kind of bring the community back together in the evening. And it's kind of a reflection on where we've been or what more we can do to build more connectedness. And then we go into an overnight sleep, which, you know, is all process of learning.
All good. Yeah. Integrating. Right? Yeah.
We come back in and we start over the next day. We get more topics up there if there are more that have evolved. And we go through that day. And we have another day of evening news and another sleepover, and then a half day after that. Now, it's scary. You know, I've looked up.
Well, you're not scared. You're fine. It's just scary for it sounds like amazing to me.
I won't admit it, but it is scary.
Right.
But I have confidence. And you know, our whole approach has been, and that's another thing that the leadership team bought into, is this idea of abundance over scarcity. Mm-hmm. And so we know that, you know, the dominant systems are all based on scarcity. Teaching and learning is all based on what kids lack, what's missing, what they need, you know.
Filling their heads with stuff that's not there yet.
Beg your pardon?
Filling their heads with stuff that's not there yet.
It's not even there yet, you know. Yep. So we're trying to create a different way of learning through experience and through choice, creativity, and through engaging the whole community.
All right. So maybe I'll ask you just for one last question, Dan, which will come from the appreciative inquiry world. And what's the best thing that could happen?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that gave me a big boost of confidence. So I pitched the idea to the leadership team. So these are top 3 people in the district, right? And I also know that the top 3 people in the district cannot cause what I'm talking about to happen. So they're not essential, but they're my community of practice, right? They get it. They're supporters. One of them said, and he just had a moment where he leaned back and he said, there's no cost to this. There's no cost. There's nothing to lose by doing it.
Right.
2.5 days of instruction over a whole year. Yeah, maybe some teacher might gripe about that, but I doubt it. You know. So that's the idea. So hopefully after the Christmas break, we'll between now and then plan and design this open space, get the invitation out there, have it really ready and ready to go. But leading up to that, I hope to engage. So when you talk about scaling up and getting more and more people to buy in, I'm going to invite this consulting group in the district, and there's 7 people in there now, to join me in this project. And from the beginning of the year now, we're going to try to use the same design that we used last year. And I'm going to propose this, that one of us or 2 of us go to a homeroom class in the 3rd and 4th grade wing, and we host a circle practice. We begin to get them in the small groups. We help them develop classroom norms using small group practices, and let them start to learn these methods and practices.
All right. And so
we're going to spend the whole first half of the year, one day a week in a homeroom class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever expanding the circle of practice then.
Ever expanding the circle of practice. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but this came to me, and it's a good way to do it.
Okay. Nice. Okay. That sounds very exciting, Dan. I can't wait to hear how all that goes. And I imagine the harvest from the evening news will be quite spectacular. So
absolutely.
Let's check in with you again as that all unfolds, and maybe even between now and then afterwards. So that'd be wonderful. All right, with that, Dan, I'll thank you very much for sharing this wonderful inspiration. I could just imagine schools lighting up all across the land, doing things that way. That would really cause some wonderful shifts. So with that, we'll close our exploration of what you're working on, Dan, for the moment. So Yvonne, if you want to give us our short musical interlude, and then honey, we'll spend some time finding out about your work in the world at Axiom Energy.
If you would like to experience genuine connection with others, being heard, patience, levity and laughter, warmth, light, smiles, new, deepening and healing relationships, then cultivate community with us. Coined by participants as a fortnightly feast for the soul, these 90-minute gatherings hosted by Axiom News offer a weaving of small group dialogue led by carefully crafted questions, followed by light, whole group reflection. Each dialogue round deepens connection and enlivens possibility between and amongst those who participate. All are welcome. Learn more and RSVP for our next gathering by visiting the Events tab in A New Commons, our sister initiative in Mighty Networks, at anewcommons.mn.co/events.
Okay, welcome back. All right, honey. So we've connected. I like sometimes the what would you call it? The lineage of our relationship. We met through Sean Loney, and I guess you've been working with him for a while. And I understand from you that you've been with Axiom Energy in Winnipeg for 6 years now. I think. Can you say why the work that you're doing with Axiom and why Axiom Energy is so important to you and has kept you there for the time that it has?
Okay, sure. Well, I just wanted to also comment and say hi, Dan. The work that you're doing is great. It's fascinating. I actually have a little bit of experience on both sides of that. I went to residential school in Saskatchewan, and then while we were in university, I took Indigenous Ways of Knowing, and we started all of our classes with sharing circles. And that really, really helped me get through university, and just the act of sharing with my peers and learning in that way. So it's great to hear the work that you're doing, and I look forward to seeing it grow. But starting with Axiom Energy here. So while I was at the University of Winnipeg, I actually seen a posting for a summer student position here with Axiom. And I didn't know anything really about social enterprises or even Sean Loney at that point until I came to my interview, looked up the books and started reading them. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. I want to learn more about this. Luckily, from there, I started working here in the summers. I was doing mostly, admin, receptionist work, kind of jack of all trades. We're a super small company. We have about 6 employees. So I'm multitasking every day. And then, so we have the 2 companies. We have Axiom Energy, which focuses on sustainable energy projects. And we also have Aki Foods, our sister social enterprise, which focuses more on food sovereignty and food security projects. So I did work for both of the companies for the majority of my time here. I do sales for the food boxes as well on our Aki Food side. But this year I had opportunity to kind of join our next training team and kind of learn a little more hands-on about the work that we do. So what we do is our major project right now is what we call geothermal, but really it's ground source heat pumps. So that's our biggest project. We do a little smaller scale other projects as well, but our biggest one is the ground source heat pumps. We have a number of different projects going in Peguis and Fisher River right now. We've done a few in other Indigenous communities in the province of Manitoba, including Long Plains, Wayway-Sikapo. And on deck, we are hoping to do some work in Sioux Valley Dakota Nation this year. So what we do is we go into the community, we recruit community members who are interested in learning about the project, about geothermal and what we can do. And then we start a training session, and we'll train those community members on what these units are, these ground source heat pumps, how to design them, and then how to install them, how to service them and maintenance them. So it's a pretty comprehensive training package we put together for the community members. And then we source for funding to help cover the cost of these. And then once we have our unit established, we go into the community and we start retrofitting the houses with geothermal heat pump systems. And then that way they can take their heating and their cooling straight from the earth. And it establishes, I like to say it establishes a connection with how we're heating and cooling our homes. So we're kind of rooting our homes in the earth. We have these hundreds of feet of loop systems that are buried into the ground. And then the fluid flows through the piping system, comes into the heat pump, and then it uses a fraction of the electricity to the energy. So, yeah.
All right. So we're having a bit of a lag. So maybe I'll say that part of what I'm hearing is that you'll work with communities, and while in the process of building that energy source that creates a connection to earth and land and home, you're also building community capacity. So people are learning how to install these and how to maintain them. Is that part of what the pattern is?
I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat that.
I was hearing from you that what I get the sense is that when you work with a community, you're in the process of putting in the units. You're also building community capacity and skill and jobs. So you're not necessarily coming in from far away and doing the work. You're actually building capacity in the community to do the work and to maintain the units. Is that part of the pattern of work?
Yeah. Sorry, you're cutting a little in and out, so I'm not sure if I got the whole gist of that. But
Right.
the plan is that we keep the work in the community, so that these heat pump systems are eventually owned by the community, and then the employees, like they're all community members, so all the work stays within the community.
Right. Okay. And you used the word, we spoke of food sovereignty and food security. Is this approach to energy also, it seems like it would would break from a dependency on systems from far away. Like could you say it's energy sovereignty?
Yeah, it would be. So yeah, the homes themselves become, well, yeah, more efficient and less dependent. They still do require some electricity to work, so there
Sure.
is a little still leaning on the hydro there, but
Right. Okay. And can we explore with you what it is that you find so compelling about the work and that keeps you coming back to stay in the work with Axiom Energy? Why? And to borrow from Dan's question, why is it important to you?
oh, I'm sorry. Well, the work, like I like to think of it as clean work for clean energy. So, like we're digging up in the ground, we're installing these loops, but there's there's no chemicals, there's no like I don't know. Sorry, a little. Yeah. I'm trying. It's just. I like it because it's like good, clean work. Like you feel, not only you're doing something for the house, but you're doing it in a good way. And yeah, I'm.
I wonder about the changes you've
It's
seen
been a
in the
while since
lives
I've
of
had
the people.
questions.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, maybe another way to explore that ground is around what are the kinds of changes you've seen for communities and in people's lives as a result of working with Axiom Energy.
I'm sorry.
I was just asking
It's
if
still kind of breaking in and.
yeah, the lag is we're suffering from rainstorms, I think, so we've got lots of lag. Um, I was asking Honey around what are the kinds of changes you've seen in people's lives and in the communities that have engaged with Axiom Energy around the geothermal energy sources.
Well, a lot of the homes that are in these communities, they do suffer for a lack of proper heating and cooling. A lot of air conditioners kind of hanging out the window and stuff like that. This puts in full central air in a good, clean way into the home, and heating as well. And also, we've worked with CMHC to kind of do a retrofit program. So we also go into these homes and kind of fix up a little bit of the envelope stuff, the windows, the doors, so that they remain energy efficient, so that it's improving the homes, which in turn improves the lifestyles of the people in the community. Once you have your home established, like it's a sanctuary, right? So once you feel safe and secure there, you feel a little more confident moving forward in your life.
Right. Okay. So what's next for you, and what is it that you'd like to experience while you're pursuing that? What's next?
Oh yeah. I heard what's next.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little
What's next?
lag. But
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so we have the crew right now. We just finished the crew out in Peguis and Sioux Valley, trained a large, about 15 total students. And they're currently working on the projects that we have out in Peguis right now. But what I am hoping to do is start another training session. So one thing that we have seen a lot is the rise of graduates in like heavy equipment and trades for women, especially in Winnipeg here. There's different programs that are geared towards women to learn more about trades and HVAC and construction and things like that. And that's in my experience here, besides me and another person, another female, we were the only 2 females that actually completed all the geothermal training. So I actually want to see an increase in that. So what I'm going to, like, what I plan to do is like to actively start recruiting for women, women in the trades to come in, start learning about our work, the things that we do, take the installers training, and then eventually one of the things that we do work with is the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association. So our installers are accredited in that. So it's another course, an additional training course that will lead to a certification internationally in the installation of ground source heat pumps. So I would like to move a lot more females towards that, so that way we can work in Winnipeg as well as the Indigenous community surrounding the area, and also internationally. Who knows where that can go?
Right. Okay. What would you like from the community or people around you to make that work out as wonderfully well as it could?
Well, I hope to get to our new story out there a little more, get more females interested in the kind of work that we do and what that work entails. And it's not like as labor intensive as some of the other trades is.
Right. Right.
So and
so
just working with the reaching out towards the housing around the area and see who's looking towards making a move towards more energy efficient heating and cooling for their homes, and then just filling in the gap, making it more accessible and affordable for people who really want to make that change.
Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful. I'm wondering if there's anything else I'd like to ask, or if there's anything you feel that you'd really like to share that you haven't already shared, honey.
I'm trying to think. It's not too much. I pretty much tapped on into everything I was thinking of. Sorry, I'm not not really too. It's my first.
That's quite all right. Quite all right.
So
I'm hearing that
you're. So.
Yeah, and the lag is causing us some trouble too. So I'm hearing that you're interested in sharing the story more broadly and widely about work that's already been done, and with the view to inviting more people in. You're looking to bring more women into the trades around the geothermal installs, and would like from the community both an understanding of which communities might be interested in the geothermal work, so that you can connect, as Sean would say, the people who have, how would he put it? Connect the people who would like to work with the work that would like to be done, something like that. Yeah. All right. Super.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's not just the ground source heat pumps that we are interested in doing. So Peguis and Fisher River are the 2 biggest projects of the ground source heat pumps that we have done. We've pretty much done all the houses we could in Fisher River with ground source heat pumps.
Right.
And so we are starting a pilot program of air to air. It's a little easier to install in the houses where there's no space. So that is something that we are gearing up as well in Fisher River. Not just the ground source heat pumps, we also look at other different energy conservation projects.
Right on. Okay. Super. All right. Well, with that, why don't we bring? Yeah, very good. Excellent. Thank you. Why don't we bring Dan back in, and we'll just move to our sort of closing rounds of what's alive for you now, or what struck you about what we've been exploring so far together today. What's alive for us now?
It's encouraging to me that others know and can see the benefit to a different way of thinking about learning. And you know, like I said, while this large scale open space, which, you know, at the end of the day, it may only be that I'm doing it in one classroom like I did last year.
Sure.
Because nobody's going to be enrolled in this. They have to opt in. So we'll see where it goes. But
well,
yeah,
I was wondering too, you know, honey, you said that when you were at the University of, was it Winnipeg, that you were invited into a circle for connecting before the instruction started. I'm just wondering how did that come about? And do you know if that's still a practice that's being used at the university?
I think it was specific to that professor. It was Elder Myra Laramie, and it was
Okay.
Indigenous Ways of Knowing, one of the classes that we did. So there's, I took Indigenous Studies at the University of Winnipeg, and it was a class. The majority of the class was done circle. So it would be a sharing circle. We would all join in at the beginning. We would talk a little bit basically about whatever we wanted to at that time, whatever we were feeling, what was alive for us at that moment. And because the class was made up a lot of my peers as well, it became like a real, like an open source learning class. You know, I got to share experiences and things like that. And it really instilled confidence, as well as like that feeling of just like, you're not the only one going through this sort of thing. And so it made it a little easier to participate, knowing that everybody was either going through something similar or had gone through something similar. And it just, it really leveled us all out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. It's probably something she still continues to do, but I haven't taken a class in a while. So,
well, it feels to me that starting any endeavor with practices like that are likely to make them feel more whole, to invite us to be who we really are, and to be more in community with whatever it is that we're doing together. It's almost mind-boggling that that's not the way it's done everywhere.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Or that those aren't the
And
ways.
it's seeming like it's just changing that perspective from like a linear beginning, middle, end kind of way of looking at things to more secular circle style. Like the energy that we create circulates towards the house, goes back into the earth, comes back from the earth. So it's all cyclical sort of learning style, and which is a really great way to move forward, I think.
Feels much more natural and life-giving.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Aligned with nature and life.
Yeah, you know, we always say that all change is linguistic. So it's a change in how you think and what you talk about. And so if you change the conversation, you change the future.
Mm.
And so with us, these kids are crafting their own futures, which is what we do anyway, right? It's what we do anyway. So we're giving them permission to be themselves. We're giving them the opportunity to have their story heard and listened to deeply, rather than, the story the system tells about them. What's missing, you're in this grade, you're behind. The system is what's missing. This is about abundance. It's not a scarcity view of every individual in terms of capacity and possibility, but it's an abundance view. We're enough. We're all enough. So we want to create containers where people can be fully themselves and feel comfortable doing that, and to tell their own story. And that'll shift the others, the stories that we make up about them. And that's one of our things, is connecting strangers to strangers. We want to do that over and over and over until everybody in that small 4.2 square mile community is connected with each other. And we get enough people connected, the system will shift. Yeah, we trust and believe that.
Well, you see the power in it, right? When you open with Circle and you're working in Circle ways or ways like it, because there's not power over, there's power with. And like you said, Dan, we're going to create our future. It's just, why does it have to be so doggone hard? It's hard because the structures we use get in the way. Whereas the practices that we're talking about that are cyclical, open, encouraging of everyone's voice, accepting of everyone's story. What was that, Dan? Generative, life-giving, natural. There's more of the power to create the things in the future we want to create in the room when we start that way. Yeah. And we do have embodied wisdom, and that's with us. And these kinds of approaches invite that in rather than push it to the side.
Yeah, we're bringing people together where the narrative of the system isolates us. And it has to do that, right? To know what it needs to know. But
beautiful. Yeah. All right. Well, if you're willing, would you be willing to say a word or two or a few words, Honey and Dan, about what it is that you're leaving our time together with? What are you taking with you?
I'm going to sneeze.
No. He's leaving with a cold.
Yes, he came with it and he's leaving.
I got a little bit of allergies working up too, so I got my body.
Yeah. I warned you. But I'm leaving feeling supported. It's like I said, like the listening, your curiosity, Peter, and Honey, even your affirmation from your own experience during this short time together. I feel like I am with a community of peers, and I feel supported as I move forward in this work. So that's one thing I'm taking away from this little bit of time together.
Are you hiding?
Beautiful. Thank you. And Honey, are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling incredibly positive. A little bit of a delay again.
Yes,
yeah, I'm feeling incredibly positive that there's such great people out there in the world that are determined to move things forward and move away from the current system that we're in, because we're finding that it is not working, and looking for different solutions. Like Sean always says, we're the solution economy. He likes to look for solutions. So I'd like to find more people like that as well.
Right on. Okay. Well, that's what we're aiming to do with some of these connections and these calls. So thank you to both of you very much for joining us, and Honey for sticking out despite our connection troubles. It's beautiful to be with both of you. Thank you both also for the work that you're doing in the world. I feel that you are very much creating the world that we would all wish to inhabit, and the communities we'd love to inhabit too. So thank you both very much, and hopefully we can keep up with you as things unfold and develop, and track with how you're making wonderful things happen. So thank you both very much. All right, with that, we'll call our time today closed. Of course, we will regather again with a couple more guests next Thursday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 in the UK. You can follow along and subscribe below, or you can find us at axiomnews.com, on X now, I guess formerly Twitter, Facebook, and I guess maybe that's it. That's what we've got for today. I'm your host, Peter Pula. Thanks for listening.